What if I told you that the very thing keeping you awake at night, your greatest problem, doesn't even exist in reality? What if the mountain you keep climbing is made of mist, and all your struggles are only shadows of your own thoughts? Today, I want to show you the truth that will dissolve your biggest problem forever. We live in a world where problems seem to define our existence. Every morning, the mind wakes up and immediately begins its old ritual: worrying, calculating, comparing, and regretting. It rehearses fears that have never come true. It revives memories that no longer exist, and it projects pain into a future that hasn't even arrived. We call these problems, but in truth they are illusions, fabrications of the restless mind. Your biggest problem isn't out there in the world. It's a phantom created by your own perception of it. When you believe that something is a problem, you separate yourself from the flow of life. You declare war against reality. You say this shouldn't be happening, and in that single moment you create resistance. That resistance is pain, not the situation itself, but your interpretation of it. The world is simply doing what it does. Rain falls, people leave, plans change, and money flows in and out. Yet the mind, obsessed with control, labels some experiences as bad and others as good. That labeling process is what turns simple experiences into lifelong burdens. The problem is not life. The problem is your argument with life. Think about it. How many times have you worried endlessly about something, only to look back and realize it never mattered? How many sleepless nights have been wasted on fears that never came true? The mind loves to invent problems because it thrives on drama. It needs conflict to maintain its identity. Without something to fix, something to fear, or something to chase, the ego feels lost. It clings to problems like a drowning man clings to a rope, not realizing the water is shallow enough to stand in. Your biggest problem is an illusion, because it only exists in the timeline of thought. The present moment, this living, breathing now, has no problems. Right now, as you breathe in, where is your problem? It's not in the air, not in the sound of the wind, not in the pulse of your heart. It exists only when you recall it, analyze it, and project it. The mind resurrects the past and invents the future, while the present moment remains untouched, perfect, whole. But because you rarely live here, in this now, you are trapped in the hallucination of problems. The secret is this: once you understand that life is not happening to you, but through you, everything changes. Life is not your opponent, it's your mirror. Every problem is a reflection of a belief you've outgrown, a fear you haven't yet dissolved, or an illusion you still identify with. The universe doesn't send you difficulties to punish you. It sends you mirrors to wake you. But when you mistake the mirror for the enemy, you start fighting your own reflection. Have you ever stood before a mirror and tried to fix your reflection by touching the glass? You could spend a lifetime doing that and still never change what's seen. But the moment you realize the reflection comes from within, you adjust yourself and everything outside begins to shift. That's what happens when you stop seeing problems as external battles and start recognizing them as internal invitations. They are calls to wake up, to drop the illusion of separation, to remember that nothing outside you has power unless you grant it. The truth is, your mind is a brilliant storyteller, but it's also a relentless liar. It convinces you that happiness depends on certain outcomes, that peace will come after certain achievements, and that love will be yours once you've earned it. But these are illusions that keep you running endlessly toward a horizon that never arrives. You cannot arrive at peace through conflict. You cannot find freedom by believing you're trapped. You must realize that the cage was always made of smoke, and you were the one holding the bars. When you begin to observe your thoughts, instead of believing them, something miraculous happens. The illusion weakens. You start noticing that the same problem looks different depending on your mood, your energy, or your perspective. This proves that it's not the situation that's the problem. It's the lens through which you're seeing it. A cloudy lens makes everything look distorted. Clean the lens, and suddenly you see that everything is exactly as it should be. Most people live as prisoners of their imagination, haunted by stories that don't exist. They spend their days solving problems that aren't real and postponing joy until some imaginary condition is met. But life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It's unfolding perfectly right now. Whether you call it good or bad, your resistance doesn't stop the flow. It only creates turbulence. And the moment you surrender to what is, peace enters like sunlight through an open window. Surrender does not mean giving up. It means giving in to the rhythm of life, to the intelligence that moves planets and grows flowers without effort. It means trusting that even what seems chaotic is part of a higher order. You may not yet understand. The waves don't fight the ocean, and yet they rise and fall with majestic power. In the same way, you are part of a vast movement that doesn't need your control, only your awareness. The great paradox is that when you stop running from your problems, they dissolve. When you look directly into the face of fear without judgment, you realize it's just smoke. The more you chase security, the more you feel insecure. The more you demand certainty, the more unstable life feels. Because you're trying to hold the wind in your hands, the real strength is not in controlling the wind, but in dancing with it. You may say, but my problems are real. My debt, my heartbreak, my loneliness. And yes, those experiences exist, but the suffering comes not from the events, but from the meaning you attach to them. A breakup is not the end. It's a space for renewal. A failure is not defeat. It's direction. Debt is not punishment. It's perspective. Nothing in life has meaning until you give it one. So what if you gave your problems a new meaning? What if you saw every challenge as a disguised blessing, every loss as a seed of transformation? Once you shift your perception, you realize that life has never been against you. It was guiding you all along, sometimes gently, sometimes fiercely, toward awakening. Every rejection, every delay, every detour was grace wearing a disguise. The illusion was believing that things should have been different. But look closely. Everything that ever happened brought you here, to this exact moment of clarity. And in this moment, there are no problems, only life unfolding perfectly as it should. You were never meant to control the waves, only to learn how to surf. The universe is not a puzzle to be solved, but a dance to be joined. When you fight the rhythm, you tire yourself out. But when you flow with it, you realize that every step, even the missteps, were part of the choreography. The illusion of problems fades, and what remains is peace, not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of understanding. So the next time you face what feels like your biggest problem, pause, take a breath, look deeper. Ask yourself, is this truly happening now, or is it a story in my mind? Observe how quickly the storm calms when you don't feed it with thought. See how lightness returns when you stop trying to make sense of everything. You'll find that what you called a problem was just life in disguise, inviting you to expand beyond your fear. In the end, your biggest problem was never meant to be solved. It was meant to awaken you. It was the teacher that forced you to stop searching outside and look within. Once you see that, the illusion shatters. You realize that nothing was ever missing, nothing was ever wrong, and you were never broken. You were dreaming of problems in a world that was already whole. So let this truth sink deep into your soul. The storm is not against you. The mountain is not blocking you. And your problem is not real. It's a shadow of thought. And the moment you turn on the light of awareness, it disappears. You are not the struggler. You are the space in which struggle appears. You are not the problem. You are the peace that has been observing it all along. When you awaken to this, you stop fighting life and begin flowing with it. And in that flow, everything you once chased begins to come to you effortlessly. You'll see that joy was never something to find. It was what you are when you stop believing in the illusion of problems. Remember this: you were never meant to fix life. You were meant to experience it. You were never here to escape the storm, but to realize you are the sky, and the sky has never been touched by the storm it holds. That sets when you finally smile and whisper to yourself, my biggest problem was never real. It was just a dream I kept believing. And in that awakening, your freedom begins. The idea that your biggest problem exists is the first illusion of all. What you see as a mountain in front of you is often just fog thickened by thought. The mind creates drama to give itself purpose, and in that drama you lose your peace. Every story of fear, failure, or uncertainty begins as a whisper in your imagination and grows into a storm because you believe it. But step back, and you'll see there's no monster behind the curtain, only your reflection. The more you chase control, the more life feels chaotic. The moment you stop running, the fog clears. Life was never as heavy as you imagined. It only felt that way because you carried it in your thoughts. Problems feed on your attention, starve them, and they die. Reality is simple, but the mind complicates it for entertainment. What you're fighting doesn't exist outside. It's a thought pretending to be real. Every problem begins when you resist what's already happening. You argue with reality, thinking you can bend it to your will. But the universe doesn't respond to resistance. It responds to awareness. Acceptance is not weakness. It's the strength to see life as it is, not as you wish it to be. When you stop saying this shouldn't be happening, peace slips quietly back into your soul. Resistance creates tension. Surrender creates flow. The more you fight, the deeper you sink. But when you let go, you rise naturally. Every wave that frightened you was trying to teach you how to surf. Life is not punishing you. It's polishing you. The moment you stop treating the present as an enemy, it becomes your greatest teacher. What you call a problem is simply life trying to show you where you're still holding on too tightly. In this very moment, there is no problem. None. The air moves effortlessly. Your heart beats on its own. The world keeps spinning without your permission. It's only when your mind drifts into the past or leaps into the future that chaos begins. The present moment is peace, disguised as silence. Every fear you have exists in a timeline that doesn't exist. The mind is a time traveler, but the soul lives here, now untouched by yesterday or tomorrow. When you return to this moment, problems evaporate like dew under sunlight. You don't need to solve life. You only need to experience it. The stillness you crave isn't somewhere out there. It's beneath the noise of thought. Stop searching for calm. Stop chasing perfection. Just breathe and notice that life has already taken care of everything. Life has never been against you. It has always been your mirror. Every obstacle, every delay, every heartbreak reflects a part of you asking to be seen. When something triggers you, it's not the world's cruelty. It's your inner wound asking for light. The world outside is only echoing what lives inside. When you change the way you look at it, the reflection shifts instantly. Life doesn't send punishment. It sends lessons disguised as circumstances. What you call bad luck is often divine redirection. When you start to see everything as a message rather than a mistake, suffering ends. The mirror doesn't judge. It only reveals. If you want peace in the reflection, create peace within. Life was never your enemy. It's your most honest friend. The ego thrives on problems because it cannot survive without drama. It needs something to fix, something to fear, or someone to blame to feel alive. When things are peaceful, it panics, whispering, something's wrong, do something. It feeds on the illusion of control and dies in silence. The ego's survival depends on your belief that you're incomplete. But the moment you realize you are whole, its power fades like smoke. The ego loves to exaggerate, turning a tiny inconvenience into a life crisis. It needs stories to stay relevant, but you are not that story. You are the awareness behind it. Once you stop identifying with the voice that narrates your fear, you discover a vast stillness that needs no validation. That stillness is who you truly are. An illusion cannot be solved. It can only be seen through. The more you try to fix your problem, the more you confirm its reality. Awakening is not about rearranging the illusion. It's about recognizing it as illusion. You don't fight a dream. You wake up from it. When you finally see that your suffering is self-created, the grip of the mind loosens. Awareness is the sunlight that dissolves the shadow. Every realization begins with the courage to question your own thoughts. Is this really true? Is the beginning of freedom. When you stop giving energy to false stories, clarity takes their place. The illusion fades when you stop worshipping it. You were never broken. You were only dreaming that you were. Peace arrives when you stop labeling everything as good or bad. The universe isn't divided. Only the human mind divides it. A single event can destroy one person and awaken another. It depends on perspective. Duality is the prison that keeps you oscillating between joy and despair. But beyond judgment, everything simply is. When you stop calling moments mistakes, they turn into miracles. Acceptance reveals the hidden harmony in chaos. You realize that every loss was clearing space for something greater. The good and the bad are only costumes worn by the same actor, life itself. When you strip away those labels, you see beauty even in pain, and in that beauty, problems cannot survive. Every challenge that appears in your life is a mirror showing you your blind spots. It's never there to harm you, only to heal you. The problem points to the perception that needs to evolve. You are not being tested. You are being taught. The universe uses discomfort to wake you up to your strength. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? The answer will always guide you home. Growth rarely feels comfortable, but comfort rarely leads to growth. The moment you face your reflection without fear, it transforms. Every challenge you embrace loses its power to hurt you. You stop being the victim of life and become its conscious participant. The storm was never real. Only your fear of it was. You are the sky that watches every cloud come and go. The thunder of worry and the lightning of doubt cannot touch the vastness of who you truly are. You've mistaken the passing weather for your identity. When you remember that you are the sky, you stop panicking every time the clouds gather. The storm passes. It always does. The sky never asks when it will end. It simply allows. That's the secret of peace. Allowance. Let everything move through you without clinging or rejecting. The storm teaches you impermanence. It shows you that nothing lasts but awareness itself. Be the sky, vast, silent, untouched. Freedom begins the moment you realize there's nothing to fix. Life doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful. Every attempt to fix yourself assumes you're broken, but you're not. You're unfolding. Understanding replaces effort. Awareness replaces struggle. You were never meant to control the current, only to flow with it. The river doesn't question its path, it simply moves. When you stop fighting, you float. Freedom is not about changing what is, it's about changing how you see it. When you stop trying to escape life, you finally meet it fully. The illusion of problems fades, and you rest in truth. You discover that peace was never missing, only unnoticed.